ಓಂ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ ಹರಿ ಓಂ ಶ್ರೀ ಗಣೇಶಾಯ ನಮಃ. ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣಮೂರ್ತಿ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರಿ, ದಂಬೆ ಪುಣಚ, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ. So, we had been seeing a broad outline of Vedanta, explanations of Shree Sachidanandendra Saraswati Swamiji, HoLenaraseepura, Karnataka, compiled by Shree D.B.GangoLLi, published by AdhyAtma KAryAlaya, HoLenaraseepura. In this 17 points we have already dealt with. Today is the 18th point, a broad outline of Vedanta. In that book, 18th point. With regard to the fact or topic that Jiva, the soul, is really Paramatman or the Supreme Self, many doubts will arise. Jiva keeps on getting born and dying. Is it proper to say that such a Jiva is Paramatman, the Supreme Self, who exists devoid of birth and death? This is the first doubt. But if observed keenly, Jiva really does not get born, nor does he die. The body gets born and it alone dies. Body. Merely because a man discards an old garment or apparel and wears a new one, does he become different? No. Similarly, if the body gets born, it does not amount to the Jiva getting born, nor if the body fails or dies, it amounts to the Jiva dying. So, this is according to the Gita Bhashya of and Sutra Bhashya of Shankaracharya. So, this is the 18th point. So, even though the body gets born and dies, it does not mean that Jiva gets born and dies. That's why Jiva is Paramatman. It does not get birth and it does not get death. 19th point. The body, the senses, the vital breath or prana, the mind, the intellect or buddhi, and the ego or aham, I notion. All these are the adjuncts of or things that get tagged on to the Jiva, attachment. All these are tagged on to the Jiva, attached to Jiva. It being so, how can he or Jiva at all be Paramatman, the Supreme Self, who is devoid of any body whatsoever? This is the second doubt. If properly observed, there is no evidence or means of proving or establishing the fact that Jiva possesses the body, Jiva possesses the senses, etc. The body, the senses, etc. All these are objects of cognition, Vishaya. These are objects of cognition, senses. And he is the subjective principle or the cognizer, Vishayi. To conceive or know that in oneself, who is the cognizer, there exists any relationship of the objects of cognition will not be reasonable or justifiable. An earthen pot becomes an object of cognition to our consciousness, is it not? Then we do not take it or conceive that the earthen pot itself is our essential nature of being, nor do we conceive that the earthen pot is related to us. Similarly, there is no means of proving or establishing that body, the senses, etc. belong to us. In the scriptural texts, it is also enunciated that Atma or the Self is bodiless or devoid of a body, according to Katha Upanishad Bhashya of Shankaracharya and Gita Bhashya and Brahma Sutra Bhashya also. So, this is the 19th point. Next, the 20th point. To conceive or believe that Jivatman, the soul, possesses the body, the senses, etc., quite naturally is also wrong only. For in the dream, these very phenomena like body, senses, etc., are not there at all. Therein, that is, in the dream, the transactions are carried on through an illusory body, illusory senses, etc. alone. Because it is not possible to show any difference whatsoever between the waking and the dream, And further, because it is not possible at all it is not at all possible to cognize distinctly by differentiating in the manner this is waking, this is dream. The body, the senses of the waking are also illusory alone. It is not possible at all to assert that there exists any relationship between these illusory body, senses, etc., and Atman or the Self. This is the 20th point. Next, 21st point. There are many jivas. All of them have accepted that they have a body, senses, etc. Merely on the ground of one jiva knowing that in his dream he had illusory body, senses, mayika, etc. How can it at all be said that he, like the body, senses, etc., of the waking, which everyone has accepted, do not exist? How can the jivas who are many be Paramatman, the Supreme Self, who is one? This is his third doubt. But in the dream too, just as in the waking, it appears as if there exist many jivas who are the agents of action. That's Kartru, Karta, enjoyers, Bhoktra, Bhokta, and all of them together appear to be carrying on transactions mutually. Just because of this, do we reckon that the jivas and their bodies, senses, etc., which appear therein in the dream, are real? No. In the same manner alone, we should discern with regard to the many jivas as well as their body, senses, etc., in the waking. Just as in the dream, although there exists one Atman or the self alone, it appears as though there are many. In the waking too, we must discern that it appears in the same manner, because dream is seen by only one Atman or the self alone. But still, it creates so many jivas in dream state. In a similar way, in the waking state also, we must take all the multiplicity of these jivas is not actual or real thing. This is just creation of our mind. So this is the 21st point. Next, 22nd point. At least the relationship of the illusory body, senses, etc., is there invariably to the jiva? Is it not? To this question, the answer is that too is not the innate nature of Atman or the Self. Atman or the Self, existing in his natural state of pure being consciousness, Brahmasthiti, completely having given up any relationship with the body, senses, etc., is therein the experience of every one of us in deep sleep. See, in deep sleep or Sushupti, we feel devoid of any attachments. No body, no senses, not at all. So that is the actually pure consciousness. It is the actual nature, pure nature of our Atman or the Self. That is in Sushupti or deep sleep what we feel, what we experience. Besides, even though efforts when one attains samadhi, so that's why we are saying that jiva has no relationship with this illusory body, senses, body and senses. Even though efforts when one attains samadhi, this essential nature of pure being consciousness or of Brahman can be intuitively experienced. This fact is mentioned in the scriptural text Shastra. Even through efforts when one attains samadhi, this essential nature can be intuitively experienced in samadhi also, according to Shastra. So this is the 22nd point. Next, 23rd point. Either in deep sleep or in samadhi, there is no knowledge of the kind I am Brahman. Immediately on waking up, it appears in the manner to me nothing was known. That is in deep sleep. Therefore, it amounts to saying that either in deep sleep or in samadhi, jiva has avidya, ignorance alone. How can such a jiva be the all-knowing Sarvajna Brahman? This is the fourth doubt. But for not having the knowledge of the type, I am such and such a person in deep sleep, the cause or reason is the non-dual existence of the real self, of the essential nature of pure being consciousness alone and not the existence of ajnana or ignorance. For the statement, I did not know anything at all, means a second thing did not appear only, and not that one's essential nature of pure consciousness also did not exist. It is true indeed that in deep sleep the distinctive knowledge of the type, this is such and such a thing, does not exist. But then the absence of the senses alone is the cause for the distinctive knowledge not occurring, and not the absence of the essential nature of pure consciousness of Atman or the Self. This is the 23rd point. So, next, the 24th point, the Jiva's relationship with the body, the senses, etc., is in the waking and in the dream, but not in the deep sleep. Thus, one who keeps on having and giving up relationship with the body, the senses, etc., can he be called a mukta or a liberated one? This is the fifth doubt. It has been previously stated that the body, the senses, etc., do not exist at all from the absolute viewpoint, that they appear as though they exist both in the waking and in the dream, and that Atman or Self is observing all the states of consciousness as the witness or Sakshi. Because the pure consciousness of Atman or the Self exists in one and the same nature or form without ever getting changed, and because by the association of the illusory body, senses, etc., no changes whatsoever of increase or decrease are observed in the pure consciousness of Atman or the Self. To say that Atman or the Self is Nitya Mukta, eternally liberated, there does not exist any hindrance or objection whatsoever. This is the 24th point. So, in 25th point, Jiva is stated to be a part of Paramatman, the Supreme Self, in the scriptures. Is it not? Transgressing the authority of the scriptures, can it be reckoned that the Jiva himself is Paramatman, the Supreme Self? This is the sixth doubt. But because the scriptures too are means of knowledge, pramana, just like perception, inference, etc., they invariably maintain their nature of being the valid means of knowledge or cognition. The valid means of cognition or knowledge, pramana, are the instruments which indicate or signify an existing thing as it is. That instrument or means without which we cannot know or cognize a particular thing, that means or instrument alone is said to be that thing's pramana, valid means of cognition. A pramana, means of cognition, denotes what exists alone, but it does not create what does not exist. The scriptural texts, Shastra, are the pramana in respect of the self or Atman. These scriptures will be valid means only if they signify without creating in us any doubt, ajnana, ignorance, or misconception with regard to Atman or the self. And if they tell us contrary to our experience, then they will never become the valid means. That our Atman or self is of the essential nature of pure consciousness or being of Brahman or the ultimate reality is also established in on the strength of intuitive experience. That Atman or the self is self alone is Brahman or the ultimate reality is also stated in the scriptures. No one will ever give any validity as being the right means of cognition whatsoever to any statement or sentence which is contrary to the experience. So, experience is the main thing. Next is the Shastras. If Shastra tells something opposite to the experience, to the general experience, then we cannot rely upon that point. This is the 25th point here. Next, from 26th point onwards, we will take it in the next session. Thank you. Hare Rama. Shri Sachidananda Arpitamastu. Om Tat Sat.